We often get asked how we got into minimalism. Well, the first thing we got rid of had nothing to do with minimalism at all, but it was the first step towards this lifestyle. So the honest truth about how we became minimalist is our daughter's speech delay. Around the time when our daughter was 1 year old, we started to notice that she wasn't really speaking much. She could barely say dada or mama, and that was about all of the words she had down. I had always heard that kids talk when they want to, not to worry, it'll get better, she'll talk when she's ready. But months went by and there was still no progress. Around the time our daughter turned 18 months old, she had a normal checkup with a pediatrician. I wanted to bring up her speech delay, but I wasn't really sure how to address it. To my surprise, when we got to the appointment, the pediatrician brought it up on her own. There's a little survey that you fill out before you go to the appointment, and they ask you tons of questions that include this type of thing. So the pediatrician did a little evaluation with her, and she did say she's a little delayed with her speech. But we're going to send her for an evaluation with an actual specialist. As she was explaining the process of having my daughter evaluated, I mentally checked out. I was just thinking, how did this happen? Why is she delayed? And is this my fault? Sidon and I had talked about this for a very long time. From around the time she turned 1, we had already said, seems like she's not speaking as much as kids her age. And in those discussions, we both said we wondered if we had done something wrong. During this appointment, the pediatrician started to tell me things that we should be doing with her. Playing with her, singing to her, having silly music on, reading to her, all of these things that were very interactive. And she said to limit screen time. A child at her age actually doesn't even need it. So on my way home, I was thinking about all of these things that I'm going to start doing more of with Mila. But then it also hit me. The majority of our day, the TV is on and Mila is in front of it. We just lived such a busy lifestyle. My husband worked 2 jobs. He was off maybe 1 day a week. I had no help. And an even deeper issue I was dealing with, severe postpartum depression. All of these things became very overwhelming to me, and day by day I just felt really unhappy. So the easiest thing for me to do was just watch TV with her pretty much all day. Honestly, there were days when I would realize I hadn't even left the house in a whole week. Shortly after all of this, I had my daughter evaluated by a speech therapist, and she was approved for services because of her speech delay. When I first met with the speech therapist, she gave me a lot of pointers, and it sounded like this: read to her, sing to her, play silly songs, and limit screen time. It was exactly what the pediatrician said. I admitted to the speech therapist that I wasn't doing a great job at doing all of the things that the pediatrician had told me to do, and we were still using screens a lot. The speech therapist asked about our daily routine and our day-to-day life, and I admitted to her that I was still really relying on TV to keep my daughter entertained and happy, and she kindly explained to me the reasoning behind it. And she also mentioned that when it comes to my daughter, when she's so occupied and just content watching her Word Party or Cocomelon, that she doesn't feel the need to want to communicate. There's really no need to. She is happy and she's engaged with the TV. So she recommended limiting that as much as I possibly could so that my daughter would want to interact with us more. Right after the speech therapist left, I had a wild idea. I knew that my self-control when it came to the TV and using that as a crutch was really tempting. So I just decided, let's get rid of the TV. That was it. I just decided I needed to eliminate the temptation. So when my husband got home, he walks in and I tell him, "Hey, I have a crazy idea." He said, "Okay." And I said, "Let's get rid of the TV." My husband was on board with the TV thing. I mean, he wasn't home very much with the 2 jobs, so he knew it was going to be a little bit harder on me, but when he was home, we heavily relied on TV. We would watch shows every night and on the weekends, and it was pretty much how we filled our spare time. So the first few days after we got rid of the TV, it wasn't that big of a deal. My daughter adjusted well. We played a lot. I read her lots of books. I put on silly music on Pandora from my phone. But after a couple days of that, it got kind of boring, and I didn't really know what to do. And still leaving the house wasn't as appealing to me because I was still struggling with some things. So I grabbed my laptop and I Googled, what do families do without TVs? To my surprise, a bunch of blogs and articles came up, and something that caught my eye was the word minimalism. I read a blog and it really spoke to me. It wasn't about the amount of items people had or a certain aesthetic. It was all about simple and slow living and just being intentional. I loved it so much that I just continued looking for more things on minimalism. It seemed like something that could really help me in a lot more ways than I had thought. This Google search then led me to finding The Minimalist. I saw that they had a documentary on Netflix, so I said, why not? I watched it and it literally changed my life. This documentary got me thinking about all of the overwhelm around my house, specifically my daughter's bedroom. Every single day when I walked into that room, I felt overwhelmed and defeated. But I never thought to just get rid of a bunch of stuff. It sounds so simple, but only after watching the documentary did it make sense to me. I didn't have the perfect process. I didn't know what I was going to do next, but it was the first step to this journey that changed my life forever. The relief I felt after I decluttered my daughter's room is indescribable. How could the answer to that overwhelm in one space be as simple as getting rid of the things that we don't need, want, or use? This inspired me and made me want to go through every single part of our house so I could feel that everywhere I went. And when I look back, I'm so glad I did. A few years later, 2 more kids, and a husband who is now more minimal than I am, I would have never thought that a Google search, inspired by my daughter's speech delay, would change our lives forever. Our journey started with our daughter's speech delay. Your journey will start from somewhere completely different. But we truly believe that everyone can benefit from living a more minimal lifestyle and find a practical peace for their lives and for their home. And as far as Mila goes, we are so grateful for the amazing team we had for her, her pediatrician and her speech therapist advocating for her and helping us navigate this delay. She's now pretty much caught up and she's doing very well. We are so proud of her, and she's starting pre-K very soon. Stay minimal, our friends, and we'll see you in the next video.